So this video is again related to solving quadratic equations by factoring, but in this video we'll talk about the case where the a value is not equal to 1. So remember, for a quadratic equation I have ax squared plus bx plus c, and let's just set it equal to 0. So we're solving for those x-intercepts. So in this video I'm dealing with a case where a is not 1. So it makes the questions a little bit trickier. The method that I'll use in this video is called decomposition. And again, you may have seen other methods in high school or on the internet, which is fine, just as long as you have one method that works for you. Okay, so let's see some examples. Okay, so here, if you notice, the a value, the coefficient of the x squared term, is not 1. So this is going to cause a little bit of an issue. I'm going to use the method of decomposition, and it still uses that product sum method that we talked about in the previous video. So here now my product comes from the a value times the c value, which it was coming from before in the other video, but remember the a value was just 1, and 1 times anything will just be the same thing again. So here my product is 2 times negative 15, so it's negative 30, and my sum is still my b value, so it's positive 7. So now I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 30 but add to positive 7. So I have 30 and 1, I have 6 and 5 as factors of 30, I have 3 and 10, so right there I know 3 and 10 are somehow going to make a 7. So I just have to figure out which way to put my sign. So I multiply and get a negative 30, but add and get a positive 7. So if I make the 3 negative, 10 minus 3 would be positive 7, but negative 3 times positive 10 would be negative 30. So these are my factors of negative 30 that I'm looking for. So now what I do is I'm going to split that b term into these two. You know, I'm going to flip the order of those, and I'll say why in a minute. So I'm going to split that 7 into a 10x minus, split the 7x into 10x minus 3x. So you know 10x minus 3x is still 7x. I haven't really changed anything. I've just changed the way that it looks. So now if I rewrite my quadratic equation as 2x squared plus 10x minus 3x minus 15 is equal to 0. Okay, so now I look at these, I group kind of the first two terms together and the second and the last two terms together. And what I want to do is factor out anything common between them. So in the first two terms, I have a 2 that is common. I can divide out a 2 from both those, and also an x. So now in that first term, what I'm left with is just an x plus 10x divided by 2x would be 5. Okay, and then my goal here is to factor out again what's common in the last two terms, but I want to end up getting a bracket again that looks like x plus 5. So I have to factor out a negative 3 from both of them, and then from the first term I'll be left with an x, but now I'll be left with a positive 5 because negative 15 divided by negative 3 is positive 5, equal to 0. So you see that I have those two brackets are the same. So now to finish factoring, what I do is I put the outside terms into a bracket together, so 2x minus 3, and then I take one of those x plus 5, so x plus 5, and that's equal to 0. And same thing to finish solving it. What I need to do is I need to think, well, when the first binomial, the first set of brackets is equal to 0, so that happens when x is 3/2. And then the second bracket is 0 when x is negative 5. So my solutions there are x is 3/2 and negative 5. Okay, let's see one more example. Okay, so again I have a quadratic equation where my a value is not 1. So my product is going to come from 5 times negative 6, which is negative 30. And my sum is going to come from the b term, which is negative 7. Okay, those numbers actually look familiar from the last example. But oh well, the signs are a little bit different. So I know that 10 and 3, again, will make a 7, somehow add it together. So what I want to do is I need to put the sign appropriately so that I end up with a negative 30 when I multiply them together and a negative 7 when I add. So this time I want the 10 to be negative. Okay, because negative 10 plus 3 will be negative 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split that 7x into negative 10x plus 3x. So what I didn't say before, it doesn't actually matter what order you put these guys in. What you kind of want to do is place them in an order such that they will have something in common with the term before them. So like negative 10x and 5x have more in common than 5x squared and 3x. Okay, so it doesn't actually matter, you get the same answer in the end, but it might make factoring a little bit easier and more straightforward for you. So I will rewrite this again with that negative 7x change into negative 10x plus 3x. Okay, and again I take the first two terms and the last two terms and I kind of pull out what's common within them. So I have a 5x is common in both of these first two terms, and I'll be left with an x minus 2. Okay, plus, so my goal here is to get another x minus 2, so I'll pull out a positive 3, and then I'd be left with an x minus 2 equals 0. So then to finish it off, I put the outside terms into a bracket together, and I take one of those repeated sets of brackets and set that equal to 0. So now I will get the solutions from the first bracket here. I would get that 5x plus 3 will be 0 when x is negative 3/5. So what I do to solve that really quickly is I take the opposite sign, so I see it's positive in the bracket, so my answer should be negative. And then in order to get rid of this 5, I'd have to divide by a 5, so that's why I put it over a 5, and then I have a 3 in the numerator, okay, to cancel out. So I get a negative 3 plus 3, and the 5s would cancel out. So that's how I do that quickly. And then from the second bracket here, x minus 2 would be 0 when x is 2. So my solutions are negative 3/5 and 2. Okay, that's it. Good luck with the assignments.